The practice of NLP is really about going into those deep systems that actually are the drivers of what allows us to have a life that is our own creation. Now, what I want to talk about specifically is something called timeline therapy. And this is something that is really effective, and I'm going to explain to you why. So, the reason why timeline therapy, developed by Tad James, is so effective is that it is a quantum practice where we actually go back and change the past. I'm not talking about theoretically getting a different lens on the past. This is not what we're doing. What we're doing is we are going back in time, and we are, in fact, changing the past. So the quantum field is one where we operate on possibility and potential just as much as reality. And the reason why we do this is because it actually is inherently equally weighted in terms of what is influencing us. In any given moment, in any given second, there is an infinite possibility of what could happen in the next second. I am like 99.999% sure that I can predict the next 5 seconds of my life. Everything around me is operating the way that it should, organizing itself the way I expect it to. But what about the next 2 hours? I'm not quite 99.9% sure. I don't really know for sure how things are going to behave. I've got a pretty good idea. How accurate can I be in my 20-year prediction? Almost, like very, very little, maybe 2 or 3% accuracy in terms of where I'm going to be, what I'm going to be doing, how I'm going to look, the people that are going to be around me, what will have happened to my dreams, my ambitions, my ideas, 20 years from now. I don't really know. All I'm proving to you right now is that the future is unpredictable. And as timeline moves further out, we're less good at predicting the future. So I think we can all very easily agree on this. This is not a stretch. But the part that is really difficult for your mind to accept is the fact that the future is infinite. The possibilities of what could happen. It is with the realm of possibility that an elephant could have fallen through the roof of my house. Unlikely, but possible, right? Somebody could be transporting an elephant. The thing is, we just sort of live our lives assuming that our best predictions are a much better way to organize our plans. So the reason why I didn't, put in concrete roofs on my house is because my prediction tells me it's very unlikely that I'm going to need to have that much protection around me. And so based on that, I go ahead and live my life. Now, everything I said so far should be really easily digestible. My belief about what I'm going to be capable of today, tomorrow, the next week, next year, are based entirely on the past. What else could they be based on? They cannot be based on the future. The future hasn't happened yet. I'm basically taking my map of the past. I'm projecting it onto the future. I'm just making stuff up about the future based on the beliefs I have about myself, my capacity, what I am capable of, what I'm not. When we do timeline therapy, what we do is we go all the way back. Now, I want you to imagine that as we go all the way back in time, there is an instant when I decided to believe something, not consciously, but unconsciously, I decided to believe that, let's say, I'm not good at math. If I go back in time, in grade 2, say I was 7 years old, and I do a little math quiz, I do poorly in math on that day when I'm 7 years old. And then my little brain, that just before the test, just before the first measured output of my math skills, anything was possible, right? And at that point, if you can imagine this is the timeline of my life, the infinite possibility of my math skills were ahead of me. And then I have the test. Of the infinite possibilities of things that could have happened, I have only within me the collapsed reality of what did happen. So as I went through life, I had infinite possibility and it collapses into one reality. Now there's a singular reality. No longer is there an infinite possibility. There's one reality that I just experienced. That then immediately causes me to eliminate some of the infinity in front of me. So now when I start looking at math class, I go, oh, that wasn't easy for me. And so all those possibilities, boom, they start to become these possibilities. So now when I look out at the next math test, I'm predicting not anything is possible. I'm predicting this is possible. Then, whatever happens is going to collapse my reality again into what happened, which is likely going to further reduce the possibilities that I accept in my head of what could happen in the future. And now, as I go through school and I have this continued belief that I'm not good at math, the possibilities in front of me have been reduced. Now I actually operate in a world where my potential possibilities are only this wide instead of this one. What we do with timeline therapy is we go back in time. We get up into a position where we're looking down at the event and we start to notice now, wait a minute, I was 7 years old. It was one test. I didn't really like that teacher and I didn't really get the lesson very well. I realized that I was sitting at the back of the classroom and I was nervous all the time. What I notice, instead of the limited possibility, I notice all the potential possibility again. I can learn. I can catch up to other people's learning if I apply myself. I can believe in myself enough to go ask the teacher for help. I look down at this little 7-year-old and I don't just see what happened in that one collapsed reality. I actually notice all the possibilities of what could have happened if I had just had a different way of thinking at the time. So I look down and now I notice, you know what, if that little 7-year-old down there had just seen things differently, thought about them differently, the infinite possibility was still available to her. And what I see now is the opening of possibilities. And so what happens is this. We are accustomed in our own natural organic brains to look back at time. I have a conversation with somebody and say, yeah, in grade 2, I wrote this test and I did poorly through. Remember all those collapsed realities of possibility? That's what I'm looking back through. So I look back through at that moment and I'm seeing it through this filtered lens of collapsed realities. And what I'm seeing is the finite experience, the singularity of that experience. And that's how we're used to looking at all of our experiences. When your boyfriend dumped you, when you had the best night of your life, when you had the scariest boss on the planet, you're looking all the time through this collapsed reality of what did happen, which is so limited. With timeline therapy, we get up above it, we look down, we notice what could have been, all of those things that we shut out. Then we back up in time and we look forward through the event. And as we look forward, all of a sudden we see all the possibilities. The infinite possibility is alive again. It's awake to us. It's real to us. Not because we've changed anything about what happened, but what happened was just one version of reality. And when we look forward, all those potentials, the infinite potential of what is possible, is as real as what did happen. So all of those open up again and we realize the truth is when you look forward through the event, those possibilities and potentials were all still available to you. You just couldn't see them anymore. And so as you look forward, guess what you're doing? You're looking forward through time, all the way to now. And now, when you stand here in this moment and you look forward, you're not looking forward into the future with the collapsed reality of the past. You're looking forward to the future with this wide open potential. Now, when it comes to math, maybe that's a big, who gives a shit for you? But what about when the belief was, I'm not worthy. I'm not lovable. I'm not smart. What if those are the beliefs? And what if when you think about yourself today, you're looking back through this collapsed reality that never had to be true? What timeline therapy allows us to do is not go back and change anything different through a different frame. What we're doing is actually changing the past. The only way that we can access the past, which is the lens we use to see everything about who we are and our potential for the future. When we look back after doing timeline therapy, we realize that we were just seeing something through a filter that wasn't even real. And now we can see it for the reality of what it was. Those potentials, those possibilities always existed, even though we didn't see them. It's like suddenly being able to see through a different type of light. We can see the infrared now. We can see what has always been there, but we couldn't see before. And now our future, it's a different set of possibilities for us. It's bigger, it's wider, it's more open. And truly, actually is, it allows us to see what we couldn't see before. This is why timeline therapy works. This is why it's so powerful. This is why it is so, so different from talk therapy or any of the therapies that are going to look back on time and ask your conscious mind to reevaluate and feel different. What is going to work is going back and the whole system having a different experience that it can bring into your present.